male reproductive system. That means what are the organs which form your male reproductive system. So these are the organs which are present in the male which will help in producing, okay, producing and then carrying the, producing what? Producing the male gametes, right? The sperms, producing the sperms, carrying them and then discharging them into the female genital tract. So all the organs which are involved in this process, that is producing the conducting and then releasing the male gametes into the female genital tract. So all those organs involved will constitute the female reproductive system. So let's look into what are the organs which are present in male reproductive system. So as I said, consists of many number of sex organs that are part of your human reproductive system. Produce, store, release the gametes or the sperms into the female genital tract. Okay. So what are those organs? So it consists of the external genital organs which you see, and then the internal genital organs. So the male reproductive system consists of two sets of organs, which are one are the what we call as the external genital organs, and then inside the body you have the internal genital organs which you don't see. So the external genital organs consists of two. So that is number one is the penis, number two is the scrotum. Scrotum meaning the back, into which you have the testis located. So the internal genital organs consist of the testis, the epididymis, the vas deferens are also called as the ductus deferens. Other name for that is the ductus deferens or the vas deferens. And then you have some glands which will make up the much part of the semen. Okay, so that is the accessory glands we call them. So they are the seminal vesicles, the prostate gland and the bulbourethral gland. So these forms the organs of male reproductive system. So you have two sets of organs, the external genital organs and then the internal genital organs. The external consists of the penis and scrotum. The internal consists of the testis, epididymis, the vas deferens. Okay, and then there are glands. We call them as accessory glands. Okay, because they don't have the major role in what is that, the reproductive system. Only they are accessory to it. Okay, which will make up the, I can say, which are nutritional or protective aspect to the male gametes. Okay, so these are the bulbourethral glands, the prostatic gland, and then the seminal vesicles. Am I clear?
Yes.
Three sets of glands, then the organs. So let's look into these organs one by one. Number one, the penis. Okay. So the penis is a male copulatory organ. What is the penis? It is a male copulatory organ which is pendulous in nature in normal state. Okay. So pendulous organ suspended from the front and sides of the pubic arch. You know, just recollect the pubic arch. There are two pubic bones, pubic arch. Okay.
Yes.
From front and sides of them, you have the attachment of the penis. It's a pendulous organ. It is pendulous, right? So, and this is the organ which is part of, we can say, both the urinary system as well as the reproductive system. So, because in males you have the common pathway for urinary as well as genital. Okay. So, the core of this penis cylindrical structure consists of the urethra. Consists of the urethra which carries the urine as well as the semen. Clear? So that is about the penis.
The same as you?
Yeah, same. That is that urethra. Are you not aware of that? You are asking like it's just like a kid, you know. So innocent. So the penis is the organ by which the sperms are introduced into the female genital tract. So as I said, it's a male copulatory organ. So similar to the vagina in case of the females. It's a female copulatory organ. So it contains, very important, so this penis consists of the spongy tissue. What tissue? Spongy tissue the center of which you have the arteries. So when there is erection of the penis, so in that spongy tissue you have the oozing of the blood into this spongy tissue, so making the penis turgid and erect. Okay? It's a spongy tissue. So as I said, it consists of 3 cylinders. So what are they? So before that, let's look into what are these parts of the penis. So the penis consists of the root, to which you have the attachment of the penis to the pelvic bones. Okay, that is the pubic bones, and then you have the shaft which you see, and the terminal part of the shaft which is called as the glans penis. When you retract the skin, you see the red part which is exposed outside, that is the glans penis. So what are the parts of the penis? You have root, which you don't see, which is the internal part of the penis through which you have the attachment. Got it? And then you have the shaft, the length of the shaft. Okay? And then the terminal part that is called as the glans, which is visible. Okay? So 3 parts. So root, shaft and glans. Am I clear? So what is the root? It is a portion that extends inner side, through which you have the attachment of the penis to the pubic bone. Am I clear? That we call it as the root. So it consists of the 2 proximal parts of the 2 cylinders and then the bulb of the penis. I will come to that. Then you have the shaft. The length of the penis, which you see, is called as the shaft of the penis. Okay? And then the glans. As I explained, when you retract the skin, the red part, what you see, it's like a head of the penis. So that is called as the glans penis. What is that? Glans penis. G-L-A-N. So then you have called as the parts called as the foreskin. What is the foreskin? It is a part of the skin of the penis which covers the glans. So when you retract it, you will see the glans. So which you have circumscribed. Okay? So that is the skin. When you retract, you will expose the glans. Okay? So that is called as the foreskin. So now what is corona? Corona is, so this part. Can you see? The rim of the glans. That is called as the corona of the glans penis. Okay? And then frenulum. What is the frenulum? A tag of skin which is attaching the skin with the base of the gland. Just like your tongue, when you lift it up, there is a connection, the fold of skin. That is called as frenulum of the tongue. So similarly, you have, when you retract the skin, you can see the attachment of the glands with the skin. So that is called as the frenulum of the penis. What is that? Frenulum of the penis. So that is the strip of skin connecting the glands to the shaft on the underside or the ventral surface of the penis. Okay? So both these are all, especially the glands, this foreskin and then the frenulum are highly sensitive because you have plenty of nerve endings. Am I clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is about, in brief, about this thing. What is that? Parts of the penis. So now coming to the root, as I explained. So this is what is the root. See this? As such, if you look into the structure of the penis, when you cut the penis, you see the like this. Okay? So it consists of 3 cylinders. 1, 2, 3. In a clear, are you following?
Yes.
2 cylinders like this. 1, 2 and below 1. Okay? So they are called as carporas. Carporas means the bodies. Okay? So these 2, the dorsal 2 carporas, the dorsal means upper side. You have 2 and below that you have the 1 between the 2. Okay? So these 2 are called as carpora cavernosa. What they are called as? Carpora cavernosa. Okay, this is called as corpus spongiosum, in which you have the urethra running.
Okay.
Am I clear?
Yes.
So you have 3 bodies. What are they? 2 corpora cavernosa and 1 corpora spongiosum, which is then the ventral surface. Only 1. Whereas on the dorsal surface you have 2 bodies. They are called the corpora cavernosa. So 3 corporas are 3 cylinders. Okay, these are corpora cavernosa. Corpus spongiosum. So where is the urethra present? It is present in the corpus spongiosum. What is that? Corpus spongium. Be clear with this. Okay. So whereas these 2 corpora cavernosa, the central you have the arteries.
Okay.
What do they contain? They contain the arteries. Okay. So these are the arteries. As I said, these are the 2 structures. The corpora cavernosa. Cavernosa means you have small spaces like sponge. You know. When you observe the sponge, it consists of small spaces, cavernous spaces. Okay, so normally there is no blood within that corpora cavernosa. That's why the penis is pendulous. So when there is excitation, when there is parasympathetic stimulation, so you will have oozing of the blood. The blood vessels relax, and then all the blood which is there, which will fill up these spaces. What is that? The blood which is present, which will fill up this space. Okay, then the penis becomes erect. Okay. Because of the erection, again, it will block the blood vessels which are taking, especially the veins which are taking back the blood. So because of that occlusion of the veins and the oozing of the blood within this cavernous sinus, what is the spaces, will cause the erection of the penis. Erection of the penis. Am I clear?
Yes.
So erection of the penis is a purely vascular process. The erection of the penis is a purely vascular process. Am I clear?
Yes.
You will learn about that much in your physiology classes. Yes.
Without erection, there is no blood at all.
Yeah.
Without erection, there is no blood at all.
These spaces, there will be blood supply. Try to understand. So if you consider this is one space, have you observed the sponge or the honeycomb?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, they will have small spaces. Okay, small spaces. Those are called as cavernous spaces. Those space is not filled with blood normally.
No.
When I am taking not filled with means these walls are all supplied by blood. Definitely. Okay, but the spaces are not filled with blood. So when there is excitation, when there is stimulation, so then you will have these spaces filled with blood. Am I clear? So then the veins are obstructed. So the pressure builds up. So there is erection. So see, just common sense. A soft tube, a water tube. Okay, soft water tube. So when the water is going constantly, it will not become straight. When you obstruct the flow, it becomes straight, right? So like that. So pressure builds up and the penis erects. So that is the process of erection of the penis, which is a vascular phenomenon. Okay? Yeah. So you have 3 cylinders. The structure of the penis consists of 3 cylinders, 2 corpora cavernosa on the dorsal side and 1 corpus spongiosum on the ventral side. So which contains the urethra.
Yes.
Okay? All these 3 cylinders are enveloped or covered or enclosed by the deep fascia. The fascia which covers these 3 cylinders is called as the Buck's fascia. What is that called as?
Buck's
fascia. So what is the Buck's fascia? It is the deep fascia covering the 3 cylinders of this penis. Am I clear?
Yes.
Yes. So that is about the structure of the penis. Structure of the penis. Okay. So that is what I mentioned. So the body of the penis is essentially composed. So as I said, the root. These 3 cylinders are there. The proximal parts of these 3 cylinders we call it as root. The main 2 corpora cavernosa. Here, see here. 2 corpora cavernosa. They are attached to the pubic bones.
Yeah.
Whereas the proximal part of the corpus spongiosum forms the bulb of the penis. Inner side. It forms an expansion. So it is like this, man. See here. These are 2 cylinders on the dorsal side. This is the corpus spongiosum.
Yes.
These are 2 corpora cavernosa. So when you go to the proximal side, towards the root, proximal side, it comes middle. The corpus spongiosum comes middle. Clear? So the proximal part of the corpus spongiosum is expanded like a bulb. You know the bulb?
Yes.
Exactly like the dropper, or what we call it as when you use it in your physiology lab or the histology lab to stain. How will you pipette up? What do you say that? The pump. You know, through which you add the drops. Yeah, okay. It's like slightly expanded on the proximal side. Front it is like a cylinder, straight tube. Okay. So that is called as the bulb of the penis. Am I clear?
Yes.
Between them, which is there attached to the urogenital diaphragm. But the penis, exactly, it is attached to the bones through corpus cavernosus. Okay. Whereas corpus spongiosum, it forms an expansion called as bulb of the penis, through which you have which receives the urethra. Okay. You follow the root of the penis. So root of the penis consists of the same 3 cylinders, proximal parts of the 3 cylinders. The corpora cavernosus forms, through which it is attached to the pubic bones, whereas corpus spongiosum forms the bulb of the penis. So that is about the structure of the penis. Structure of the penis. Am I clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's blood supply. So as I said, the corpora cavernosa is supplied by the deep arteries of the penis. So the center of the corpus cavernous, you have the deep artery of the penis. Okay, and even the what is that? The dorsal aspect of the penis, if you observe above that. See this? There are again two more arteries here. Okay, which are above the fascia. The core of this you have the deep arteries. Above that you have the other arteries which will be supplying the skin, the glands, all the parts. So that is called the dorsal arteries of the penis. The dorsal artery of the penis,
Yes, sir.
deep arteries of the penis.
Is there artery comes with you?
Yeah.
Is there artery?
Separate artery set of arteries will be there, which are not of much importance. As I explained, these two arteries are responsible for the erection. Okay. I said the sets of arteries which will be supplying. Okay. So what are they? Deep arteries of the penis. And then artery of the bulb of the penis which will be supplying the corpus spongiosum, and then the dorsal arteries of the penis. Okay, all these sets of arteries will be supplying the penis. For erection, the important arteries are the deep arteries of the penis which are there in the corpus cavernous. Am I clear?
Yes.
Okay. So now all these arteries are branches from internal pudendal artery. When I was explaining the pelvis class, I explained the internal pudendal artery is the artery of the perineum. Which is the artery of the what is that pelvis? Internal iliac artery.
Yes.
Internal iliac artery is the artery of the pelvis. The same branch, internal pudendal, is also branch from internal iliac, but it is supplying the perineal structures. Okay. External iliac is the main artery of the lower limb.
Yes.
Am I clear? So venous drainage, as I said, it is the same internal pudendal veins, same deep artery, deep vein of the penis, dorsal veins of the penis, they all drain into internal pudendal veins. Am I clear? And the lymphatic drainage is important. The skin of the penis, including some parts of the glands, so they drain into superficial inguinal lymph nodes. Which part? Medial part of the superficial inguinal nodes. Whereas the deep structures of the penis, they drain into internal ilia, which are inner side in the pelvis. Am I clear?
Yes.
So which part of the penis is draining into the inguinal, superficial
The superficial
inguinal?
area.
The skin,
Yes.
the skin of the
Skin.
penis. Okay, especially these sexually transmitted diseases, you will have an enlargement of these the superficial inguinal lymph nodes like syphilis, gonorrhea, or something. Okay. So nerve supply. So mainly you have this pudendal nerve supplying this penis, whereas the nerve supply which are responsible for erection, ejaculation and all, they will be autonomic nerves, that is both parasympathetic and sympathetic. Okay, parasympathetic is excitatory, sympathetic is inhibitory. Okay. So now next organ, that is the scrotum. So scrotum is a Latin word which means a bag.
Yes,
no?
yes.
Bags, in which you have the situation of the
Two
testes, two testes. Okay. So it is the same skin bag, you can say. Okay. So you can consider as it is the outpouching of the anterior abdominal wall. So how the scrotums are developed? Actually, two labial scrotal swellings, they come together. Okay. So as the testis develops within the abdominal cavity and then comes down
Yes.
through the inguinal canal or descends down, so it forms an outpouching like that. Okay, we can consider as, because the skin of the scrotum and the anterior abdominal wall are continuous. Am I clear? So you can consider that these scrotums as the outpouching. So you got the meaning of the word outpouching, right?
Yes.
The same part of the anterior abdominal wall, because the same layers also will be covering the scrotum, the inner layers of the scrotum. So the scrotum is an outpouching of the lower part of the anterior abdominal wall. So it contains what? The testis, along with it the organs like epididymis, the vas deferens, all of them are present within the scrotal sac. Okay. So it is divided into two halves. When you observe the skin of the scrotum, from the external side only you can consider it looks like two bags. Am I
Yes.
clear? Yes. Because the center you have a dark raphe-like structure, so that divides the scrotum into right half and then left half. If you observe that raphe, which is continuous with the under surface of the penis, okay, and similarly posteriorly within the center of the perineum. So that shows that it is developed from two halves, which later they have fused. Did you understand this
Yes,
point?
yes,
Formation of the raphe. So two swellings, the genital swellings, like labioscrotal swellings, we say. Okay?
Fuse together.
So they fuse in case of males. In female, they don't fuse. There will be slit, opening. That too labia major. That's why I said labioscrotal swellings. I said. The females they don't fuse.
Yes.
When the males they fuse.
Okay.
Am I clear?
Yes.
Okay. So that's called as the raphe, which is continuous with the undersurface of the penis and posteriorly even with the center of the penis. So what is the perineum? Am I clear? So that is called as the raphe. The raphe actually if you see the inside of that, there will be a septum.
Yes.
Septum dividing the sac into two compartments. There will be a septum. So totally separating the right testis from the left testis. Okay, there is a septum within that sac like this. Okay, so which corporate with your the raphe outside. Okay, corresponds to the raphe outside. This is the septum dividing the scrotal sac into right half and then left half, in which you have the right testis and then the left testis situated. Clear? So that is about the scrotum. So when you cut the scrotum, the layers of the scrotum. So as I said, the testis is present within the scrotum. The coverings of the testis. Are you following? The coverings of the testis only will form the layers of the scrotum. One and the same. The scrotum and the testis. See here. Both are inside here. So the coverings of the testis will form the layers of the scrotum. It will be same. So once you study them layers, so it will be same for testis, scrotum, except the skin and the superficial fascia. Okay? What are the inner layers? It will be the same coverings of the testis. It will be covering for the spermatic it will be covering for the testis, and it is layers of the scrotum. Anything you can say, okay? So all together we will study, okay? So as I said, it is the skin, superficial fascia. Up to this is only for the scrotum.